Right, hello everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Oxford Business Insights podcast. And I'm excited to introduce you to two gentlemen, one Rik Yapp and Adam Engberg of Kirmada. Welcome, guys. Good to meet you.
Hi Nick, good morning.
I know.
And Kirmada will help you work smarter, not harder, and it's revolutionising the sort of remote workspace for virtual assistants and beyond. But we're going to learn a little bit about Rik and Adam's journey to get to this stage of this fascinating product, how they met, their backgrounds, and how they came to launch a product, a business called Kirmada during lockdown. So, and it takes us really from gaming to workspace tools, and are now helping VAs work smarter in a complex world. It's really excited to learn about that journey. So thanks again for joining us. So can I start with you, no particular order priority? Adam, tell us a little bit about your background through IT operations, software development to founding Kirmada. How did you get started in the technology world?
Technology world was because I was always fascinated with IT and computers in general. As a kid, I was always mucking around with them, breaking things, taking them apart, couldn't quite put them back together again. So when I left school, I wanted to get into something to do with technology, and I approached a company called DataSolve, which was part of Thorn EMI at the time, which was it was their data processing arm, so big mainframes and that sort of stuff. And I managed to get myself in there and worked my way up in their projects departments, managing projects for their blue chip clients and stuff. And I left there in, I think it was 2000, and started my own software company at the time, which was right at the beginning of the internet and trying to sort of be what social media became. I didn't quite make it.
Okay.
And then from there, lots of consulting and self-employment, and then up until now with Kirmada.
Excellent. Okay, Rik, would you tell us a little bit about your background from Oxford Engineering, and I believe some game development in there as well?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was always interested in computers. We had one at school, one of the very first ones. And yeah, I went to Oxford, studied engineering, but I always felt computers was more where I was destined. And a friend set up a games company. And so I wrote computer games for about 10 years. We wrote Trivial Pursuit, which had some incredibly good compression techniques in it, which
Okay.
obviously there's so many around now, but there weren't many at the time.
Okay.
Getting 6,000 questions into a small computer was quite hard in those days. And we wrote Yes, Prime Minister, which is one of the first games ever to use a mouse. So we're always looking at trying to do things in a different way. And then I went from there to database software, and I wrote a database for BT that contained data on all of their servers and network kit worldwide. It was a massive project. Again, it was doing things in a different way for them and showing them what could be done. So it was always innovative. And from there, I went on to do various contracts. And Adam came along with this idea, and so we started
Brilliant.
Kirmada.
Excellent. I've got to say that's a fantastic pub quiz question about which was the first game to use a mouse. I
Yes.
think many people would stab at yes, Prime Minister.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. So did you know each other before you started Kirmada? We'll get into Kirmada in a little while, but tell us how you met.
Yeah, we met in our local pub, which is always a good
Okay.
place to meet. So Rik used to write these fantastic pantomimes, adults
Okay.
only pantos. And yeah, I got recruited to be one of, I think I was a vegetarian Viking. So it
Okay.
shows you how traditional these pantos were. And yeah, and that was back in what, 2005, sometime around then.
Yep.
Excellent. So there's a little bit of creative side here as well as the keyboard side, your introductions,
Yeah.
I think. And do you still do pantomimes?
No, not so much now. Still do a bit of acting, but not pantomimes. I'd
Excellent.
like to do it again.
Okay. Excellent. Okay. Now you started Kirmada during lockdown, and it's still a fascinating part of this whole series. There's probably not a company I've interviewed that hasn't got some sort of lockdown story, but not many that actually started in lockdown. So what was your thinking? How did you arrive at this solution? Because clearly you've got a very competent background in databases, game development, things like that. But developing a product for virtual assistants might not have been top of the list if I'd been sitting at that table in the pub when you met. So
No, no. So the reason it came about was that time I ran a small web agency. So we were doing web design, small developments, that sort of stuff. And um, we kind of came to the conclusion that we were doing everything inside a web browser. So all the work that we were doing, all the
yeah,
development, all the graphic design, everything was happening inside a web browser. And that meant that managing multiple projects for multiple clients and everything else, you just ended up with tabs everywhere and a real mess. And just thought that there had to be a different way because we were losing so much billable time. Knew every time one of my contractors took a telephone call from one client while they were supposed to be working for another, they weren't recording it. And then they were spending time after the phone call with follow-up actions and what have you. And we thought that we knew we were losing money. We just didn't know
yeah.
where and how. So I was saying to Rik one afternoon, probably on a Zoom chat or something, that I just wanted to find a way where I could have one client on the screen and swipe them off and replace them with another client so that everything would be logged in, ready to go. And I could share those with my developers and have it record their time. We thought there must be something out there on the internet that did this. And we were really surprised to find there wasn't. And that
This
was
is only what, 5 years ago, roughly.
yeah, and that was the kernel of Kirmada. So we sat down, tried to work out how we would do this. Then we got talking to the people that then became our developers, and they wrote the proof of concept code for us just to prove it could work.
Yeah,
And it all grew from there.
excellent. And what was your view on this, Rik? I can understand that Adam had a sort of a business case within his own business at the time for this. So how did that evolve into a standalone business opportunity?
Well, I suppose initially I thought, well, that sounds quite simple. It sounds like quite an easy thing to do. I mean, there's lots of development tools out there where you can plug into things and get things working. And we got a very, very rough demo working very quickly just to sort of get an idea of changing between workspaces.
Yeah,
But I quickly saw how much potential this had. I think possibly at the time it was around the start of Google Profiles, and I was using Google Profiles, and it was okay. It was quite useful, but I could see how Kirmada could evolve into something that was way, way more powerful than Google Profiles. And I think the the idea of virtual assistants that came a little bit later on because we were initially thinking web developers and we were approaching all kinds of different verticals who were interested, but virtual assistants seemed to be the perfect
yeah.
starting market for us, and they seem to love it, so that's great. Um,
And
so
there's a lot of them around now compared to.
absolutely, it's a massive growth industry. It
Yeah.
really is. And obviously, lockdown had a bit of an effect on that as well. But so many people work remotely, work for multiple people. Yeah, and that's great.
Okay. Well, look, I think Ron talk about what it does. I'm sure that some people will understand some of the points making. I guess doing a little bit of a demo, and I think Adam, you're set up to do a little bit of a demo of what it looks
Yeah,
like, how it works, and so
yeah,
forth,
absolutely.
and walk us through those sort of key features and what the benefits are and the problems they're trying to solve. So
Okay, so this is Kamada,
yeah,
and like I said, the problem that we were having was with tabs being everywhere and not being able to track our work.
yeah,
So when I said that we wanted a system where we could swipe customers off and on the screen, this is what we came up with. So it's a series of workspaces, and you create a new workspace for every client you've got or every project you want to work on.
yeah,
And when you click on it, it takes you into what is a web browser. I've got these tabs open across the top of the screen.
yeah,
You use it in exactly the same way that you would any other web browser. But the difference is this web browser is dedicated to this client that I just clicked on, Beach
right,
Breaks. So when I click on this, I'm logged into everything that they need. So if I, Google Drives, Trello boards, whatever it is, everything is logged in for that client. And if I want to switch between clients, I can just literally just click up here, choose a different client, and now I'm in a completely different web browser. And again, this web browser is now logged into everything that this client needs, and I'm able to pick up the work from where I left off. So So moving between clients is literally 2 clicks from wherever you are. You can just go
Yeah.
back here and choose a different client. And because obviously now Kirmada knows which client you're working for at any given time. When you go into the client's workspace, there's a clock on the top right hand corner here which shows that
Okay.
it's recording to the timesheet automatically.
Brilliant.
So I don't have to remember to start and stop clocks. It just happens. The time gets recorded automatically. I can choose different categories for my timesheet. I can add notes to the timesheet. I can put all my most useful or most commonly visited websites down the left-hand side here, so that I've always got access to what I need as soon as I go into the workspace. And what we wanted to be able to do from that follow on is find out what our billing situation is at any given time. So each workspace then has its own timesheet recording system. If I go back to last month, got a bit more data in that. So it shows you every day that you worked for this client and how long you worked for the client. If you charge a retainer for the client or you have
Yeah.
a budget, then it shows you here how far through the budget you are in the month. And then for all of the work you've done, exactly what your cost price and billables is and P&L.
Yeah.
But the cost price being if you're paying yourself an hourly salary rather than what you're charging the customer, you can work out the difference. And so we wanted to have full control over this. So, it does everything that normal timesheet software does. So you can edit your timesheets, add entries, remove entries, whatever it is you want to do.
Yeah.
But the key thing is all of these are shareable. So I can pick up beach breaks and I can send it to you, Nick, and it'll appear on your screen.
Okay.
And as soon as you've accepted the invitation, you will be able to then work inside this workspace. And
Okay.
all of these resources down the left-hand side are logged in and ready for you to work if I want you to be. And all of the work that you do automatically goes onto my timesheet. So I can set the price what I've agreed to pay you per hour. And then I can always see exactly what your invoice is going to be at the end of the month. You know what you're going to be invoicing me at the end of the month.
Excellent.
And we don't miss a minute's worth of billable time.
Excellent.
Yeah. And just that feature alone, we realized, I mean, that catches on average between 1 and 2 hours of extra billable time per week, which
Yeah.
if you're on £35 an hour, it's almost £3,000 a year, is just in the bits and pieces of time that it catches for each user not recording stuff automatically. And basically, we put other things into these workspaces like calendars. You can schedule social media posts from here, and you can use it as a social media
Okay.
scheduler as well.
Okay.
You can set tasks for other people in the team. So it's got basic sort of calendar and task management for you. And also it's got file storage. So all of the files that you need to keep for your clients, you can keep in one place. So everything that they give you can be stored safely on the cloud inside the workspace. So in a real brief nutshell, that's what Kirmada lets you do. It's these self-contained environments for a client's work to be in. And it just allows you to context switch really, really easily.
That's excellent. And is there a limitation on the number of workspaces that you can have?
No, it's unlimited. So as many
Okay.
as you like, and you can archive them for later as well. So if a client's going away for a few months or a project in
Yeah.
hiatus, you can get rid of it for a
But you
month.
don't necessarily lose that history if you need to bring it
Yeah.
back sometime. Okay.
And they
And
don't have to just be clients either. We find that, you might want to have a workspace for some personal things
yeah.
or some admin or do with your
Anything.
company or whatever. So because it's so easy to add one, it takes 2 seconds, and it's not like Google Profiles, and it's just much neater.
Yeah. No, I get that completely. And so this would clearly work for whether it was an individual busy VA or even if it was somebody running a team of VAs, because
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
hand over that. That's
it was initially designed from the agency perspective,
yeah.
a small company needing to manage projects with staff.
Okay. And so what was the as you are now? What is a typical user? Is it a smaller scale VA? Is it a small team, or is it sort of larger companies? Well, thank you for that demo. I thought that was really powerful.
Um, Yeah, I mean, it's as of now, it's for anyone. And obviously, we started with individual users,
Yeah.
individuals that are working on their own because it's quite a powerful piece of software for them. And as time goes on, we're talking to steadily larger companies. So, obviously the ideal is to get into companies who then take on multiple licenses. Just from a business perspective,
Yeah, no,
it
I
makes
get
sense.
that. Okay, and we've talked that your primary market is the VA market, whether it's individuals or agencies.
Mm.
Just talk about. I understand why focusing on a particular market might work, but I can see that what you've shown and just applying to other businesses, anyone where time is of importance and they've got multiple clients or projects on the go. So talk to me a little bit about the VA market, why you focused on that, and whether in due course you might take it elsewhere into other markets.
Yeah, we definitely will take it into other markets. I think when we started out, we were looking in all different kind of directions, and uh, we were talking to as a mentor who actually said, what you need to do to start with is really niche down on a particular market, and really get that sorted out, and from there, then you need to grow into the other ones. I mean, we do have users outside the VA industry. We do have web developers. We do have real estate agents. We do have all kinds of people who are using it in their own way. So we know that there's lots of potential in other areas, but we felt like we needed to focus on this one to start with. We've been to a few conferences and things. Always goes down very well. You can see them nudging each other as they're being shown the demo. So that's great. But yeah, we know we need to expand into other
Excellent. No,
areas.
okay. And so, what about international ambitions? Because the great thing about the VA market, obviously, it's pretty much global, and there are people sitting watching this in the UK who are using VAs and PAs and etc. from abroad. Do you see that going global? Because I mean, the business model seems simple enough.
Absolutely, yes, we do definitely. I mean, we do have some success in the North American market. I was just on a podcast recently in Canada.
Yeah.
So, and we have users in Australia. So we don't have any plans at the moment for doing any non-English language version.
Right.
But the vast majority of VAs globally work in the English language. I
Yeah.
mean, there's a lot in the Philippines, but they're all English language, and India. Um, but we're focusing on the English speaking part of the world at the moment.
Excellent. Okay, that all makes sense. And so the other aspect is then obviously you could go direct to the VAs or VA companies, but there are sort of organisations perhaps like Upwork or Fiverr or other people where VAs congregate, if that's the right word. Would you look to do sort of deals with those sort of people, or is that part of the expansion plan? I admit I'm not sure how that commercially might work for you, but are there other routes to market?
Yes, definitely. I think that's a very good point. As you start to grow, it's really useful to link up with other bigger organizations. So we are doing that. We're talking to a few franchises who are interested in it. But yeah, obviously there's some massive marketplaces like Fiverr or Upwork.
Yeah.
Another thing to say is like Canva. I mean, the vast majority of VAs use Canva. It's like more than 90%. So talking to them or Zero, because we do the timesheets. Be nice to link through directly to Zero and do a collaboration with them. So yeah, I think that's a very good point, and it's how you grow your business, isn't it? By linking up with other people.
Okay. And in terms of when you look at such of dealing some of the larger organisations, I think you mentioned before you might look to a big organisation with a lot of people that has the potential to be commercially good for you to do a large scale licensing agreement. How would you approach those? I think you mentioned that conferences of VAs and things have been successful for you to date. So how do you go about marketing and getting into those companies?
It's when you go for the larger companies, it gets harder and harder. One of the key things is the IT department has a bit of a strong idea about new software, and
Yeah, our nemesis, our IT
yeah,
department.
Yes.
yeah. So it can take a long time. But I mean, some of these groups you're talking about, obviously Fiverr or Upwork, Freelancer, they are basically just massive collections of individuals.
Yeah.
Um, so they don't have that issue in the same way. Um, but yeah, there's
Yeah,
lots.
it's quite interesting though. We've been obviously marketing and sales is one of the most difficult things for any small company to get a grip on. But what we're finding is that we've got a guy who is just doing the old-fashioned sales for us
Yeah.
now. So more than just marketing, actually being on the phone and closing the deals and doing them one by one. Because when you're at our stage of growth, every single subscription makes a difference. So, winning every single one is key. It's quite interesting. I always think that when you imagine a SaaS software company, you just imagine, you start off, you build your software, you put it out there, millions of people subscribe, and then everyone's a winner. But actually making those phone calls and the individual
Yeah.
emails, that's where you have to start.
Yeah, it's a sales job to be done. Absolutely.
And we've also realized that once you show the software to VAs and other people as well, once you show it to them, then we have a really high subscription rate. About 20% of them will sign up and start paying for it.
That's good.
So it's really getting to that point, getting them to look at it.
Okay. And I understand you always overcome objections or have to overcome objections from IDT departments. But in terms of your own development cycle, would you recruit people in-house? Would you carry on using freelancers? Would you do a lot yourselves? How do you see the product evolving from that side of things? Because presumably.
Yes, I think ultimately we want to have the development team in-house.
Yeah.
Currently, it is a development team, and they've been great. They've done a fantastic job, but we know that we need to start to integrate. So I think you'd have to do it in stages. You have to bring somebody in-house who has access to the code, can start to be familiar with the code, maybe do the odd bit of development, and then grow it from there. So, I mean, I've had experience in this because in the games company that I was in, I was a developer for quite a long time, but then I became the development manager. So I was managing teams all around the country, writing games. So you can see how it has to grow and how you have to build the teams and get them talking.
Excellent. So in terms of looking forward from where you are now, what's this, how do you look over the next 2 or 3 years for the growth of the company? Presumably, from what you're saying, still predominantly VA focused because it's such a big market to go for. Although I could see you possibly moving a little bit away from that. But what's the sort of user targets that do you set yourself? How do you plan the growth in a business like this? Because it could be exponential.
Exactly. Well,
Yeah.
yes, you always cross your fingers, don't you? And just going back to the games industry, it was sort of the same there because you always wrote a new game and you always, thought it was going to be the new Doom or the new whatever. So it was very exciting. So it makes it very hard to plan, doesn't it? When you think, I
Yeah.
don't know, am I going to have 1,000 users? Am I going to have 100,000 users or 20 million users? So it makes it very difficult to plan. So we are focusing on the VA market. I mean, the VA market is growing at possibly 30% a year at the moment in terms of numbers. So that's a fantastic market to be in. Also, it's very, very underserved by software.
Yeah.
There's very little, they've all had to cobble together different bits of software, whereas Kirmada comes in and takes a lot of that away. It does lots of things for them automatically. But we definitely want to move into other markets. One of the things that we've held back on is we're just bringing out a new version with Chrome extensions in it. So that will allow us to target the web developer market, which was the initial market it was
Right.
planned for. But it will give us access to that. I mean, that's another 30, 40 million people in the world. So yeah, there are some enormous markets out there. And the other thing is sometimes we go along and someone comes to talk to us and they're from a market we had no idea. I mean, like coaches or whatever, and
Absolutely.
and suddenly people say, actually, this could be useful for us, and that's exciting. It's always so we don't know which way it's going to go.
Absolutely. The principle of having everything there and you can switch between one client and another at two clicks.
Yeah.
That's great. And I think I know from a lot of VAs, my experience, because as a coach, not only do you tend to quite often use VAs, but a lot sometimes you recommend for smaller clients that haven't necessarily got the infrastructure around them to put in a VA is a logical first step. So we do talk to quite a lot of them, but they tend to be very competent in what they've learned in a corporate environment, your classic big company systems and things like that. And sometimes I absolutely see that how they might struggle to be able to switch between one and the other and do the admin around it that's necessary, like timesheets and so forth. No, I think it's a fantastic product. So in terms of where you go from, just out of interest, how do you split your roles, or is there a split, or are you in terms at the moment? What does Rik do, and what does Adam do, or do you do a bit of each
It's
other?
such a hard thing, isn't it? Because when you're in a startup, um, I liken it to like being thrown in at the deep end of a swimming pool, and you have to work out whether you can swim or not. So you have to do everything, and it's frustrating because you want to focus on things that to grow the company or develop the product or do the
Yeah,
marketing, whatever it is, but you don't have the chance. I mean, Adam's in charge of development and the product. And he does a fantastic job of that, liaising with the development team and
yeah,
testing. And because it's a lot of work, it really is a lot of work. Um, but we've actually we've just taken on a VA to do
yeah,
some of the work for us. And that's quite a win-win for us because it allows us to, A, get rid of some of the work, but B, it allows us to have more fingers out to VA community. And yeah, so
Yeah, so
yeah,
if you were to draw a Venn diagram of our responsibilities, the circles are almost on top of each other,
right,
and
okay,
we've got to over time sort of split them apart. But it's great working with somebody who you've known for 20 years because you can intuitively understand what you both should be doing, where your strengths are. So
yeah,
as you come up with tasks,
yeah,
the person who's best suited to do it at that
yeah.
moment
No,
usually
I understand
volunteers
that.
for it.
Excellent. And just on we talked a little bit about organisations like Upwork and those others and possible corporates. Are there any other type of organisations that you might be able to work with, partner with, that could help you develop the company?
As partnerships.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, there's an awful lot of companies that have complementary services to us who are
yeah,
much bigger. So,
yeah,
Rik mentioned Zero, and there's QuickBooks and
yeah,
Canva, and there's all of these absolute giants out there that, and most of them actually advertise the fact that they have partner programs and they're actively looking for partners.
yeah,
So you can go through an application process in order to get in there.
yeah,
And that's what we're currently looking at is trying to get those application processes started because it could be a game changer. Landing
yeah,
one giant partnership like that, just gives you so much exposure to people who are interested in
yeah.
exactly what it is that we're doing.
Excellent. And so, look, is there anything else we haven't touched on? Because I think it's a fascinating product. You're really focused, but you've got a wide capability to go international, globally, but also into other markets. But I understand you're focused on VAs now. Is there anything you hadn't we haven't touched on that you think people should be aware of?
good question.
Like number of Vikings that are vegetarian or something?
I think
Well,
there were three, weren't there?
yeah, with three vegetarian
Okay.
Vikings, and
Yeah.
then in the follow-up panto, I was Borat as well. So
Oh dear.
that was horrific.
Okay. Well, look, if there's nothing else to say, it's just I would encourage people to look at the Kirmada website. But you tell us what's the best way to get in touch? To have perhaps a look around at the product themselves, and how to contact you if they've got a real interest in it. Because I know there will be VAs that pick up this and have a good look.
Yeah, the website is kirmada.com, and it's
Yeah,
KIRMADA.com. And if you go on there, then there's anybody's free to book a one-to-one demo with us. So there's a
yeah,
button at the top. If somebody just wants to go through things and find out how to
yeah.
use it, then we're always happy to show people around. And yeah, you can just get in touch with us through the website.
And the way I always remember it is that Kirmada Is Rik and Adam backwards, or Adam and Rik backwards?
Yeah.
Adam,
Remember that?
yeah.
So excellent. Well, look, we've learned from database and IT beginnings, game development, how we've gone through to developing a product, which I think is really a game changer for VA's market and potentially other markets, both in the UK and beyond. So look, thank you for telling us about your journey, also doing that demonstration. People know how to get in touch with you now if they know more, Kirmada.com, and I'd really encourage people to do that. So I'd like to thank you for your time today, and you're really making virtual workspaces a lot more pragmatic than they perhaps have been for smaller organisations. So thank you very much for that.
Thanks, Nick. Really appreciate it. Cheers.
Yeah. Thanks, Nick.